Okay, good morning, everyone. This is Dave Nadler here with Keith and a bunch of other forecasters here this morning at the weather office here in Peachtree City. Appreciate everybody taking the time to join us this morning. We'll do our best to kind of pull everything together and give you some updates on what we've been seeing so far this morning as we head into tonight and tomorrow. So with that, I am recording this briefing, and the graphics and the slides should be uploaded. So you'll have that for reference here following the briefing here. All right. All right, let's just get right into the highlights. Confidence, some of the models coming together, confidence continuing to increase that a wintry mix of rain, snow, or even all snow at times is possible across portions of north and central Georgia. We are looking at the possibility of some accumulations at this point, especially, and I'll get more into this here in just a minute. But if we see most of the snow falling tomorrow during the day, based on temperatures, any accumulations that we do see are probably going to be on grassy dirt surfaces, maybe some elevated roadways like bridges and overpasses. But at this point, if temperatures hopefully stay above freezing during the day tomorrow, we shouldn't be dealing with too many impacts during the day tomorrow. And that next bullet is important because the impacts will come down to the temperatures, of course, and the timing, duration, and intensity of the precipitation through the day tomorrow into tomorrow night. The other issues we're going to have to consider is even after the precipitation ends, sometime Friday night, from northwest to southeast, as temperatures fall below freezing into Saturday morning, any residual moisture on the ground could refreeze, causing some black ice problems. So we'll definitely have to consider that for parts of the area. Okay, so real quickly, I wanted to show a quick graphic showing like kind of the setup and the challenges that we're facing. Very similar to kind of what we saw last January, and to some degree where we had an deep subtropical moisture coming from like the Gulf of Mexico moving to the southwest. At the same time, we have this colder air mass coming in from the north. So it's sort of a race between the colder air coming in and the precipitation, the deeper moisture moving up from the southwest. And so we always seem to be in this transition zone of where the deeper moisture is versus the colder air to support, wintry precipitation. And that holds true for this event as well. Wanted to get into now, the next slide will show an animation from one of the models that we use, and we feel like this is a pretty good portrayal of what to expect. So it'll loop through basically starting this evening and going through the night into tomorrow. And as it loops through, what we're looking at is the mix along the I-85 corridor from southwest to northeast, developing sometime late tonight into the early morning hours, probably between about 4 and 8 a.m. Then as we're going to see these kind of periodic waves move across, so there's going to be variability in the duration and intensity of the precipitation through the day tomorrow. So that's why the model's kind of showing maybe a change over to all snow and then back to rain as the lighter precip comes in, and then maybe back to snow through the afternoon tomorrow, which includes Atlanta Metro, with the heavier precipitation moving in. So this is one of the models we're looking at that has a pretty good handle, we feel, as to both the changeover transition zone, the timing, and the duration of the event. And then by late Friday night and early Saturday morning, we expect most of the precipitation to be well south and east of our forecast area. And for areas that are across the extreme southeastern counties and then moving into South Georgia, we do expect that the air mass is going to be warm enough to support mostly rain, a cold rain. So we don't expect any impacts really to the south, extreme southern areas and southeast part of Georgia at this time. Okay, the next graphic. This is showing one of our higher resolution models, not too off from what I just showed you, but it's just giving you another look at the variability in the models. And we went ahead and threw a couple of snapshots on the right. And Keith's here too. Do you want to just kind of briefly talk about this?
Yeah, so obviously we each tag team a different part of this briefing to help Dave and everybody put together, so everybody was looking at different things. I wanted to look at sort of a worst case scenario potential, and this gave us that worst case scenario. It's a trusted model, but it's one of the ones that's a little further north. But what you're looking at is that rain shield moving in this afternoon through the loop. I wanted to include that because it looks like that rain's going to move in this afternoon, last into the evening, and then sometime overnight tonight. I picked the 3 a.m. snapshot in the top right, where we start to see the changeover in on the northern fringe of that band. The bigger question is, where's that band? A lot of the models disagree. Like in this particular scenario, you see the band as far north as Rome up to Blairsville. Other scenarios, it's actually south metro and south and east. So that's really one of the big caveats to this forecast and the big question. So sometime in the middle of the night, we'll see that transition on the northern edge of that band. And then you see that transition begin to shift south and east on the 6 a.m. snapshot that I grabbed. And so in this particular scenario, it starts out north and west of the metro and then transitions into the metro and along the I-20 and I-85 corridor in the early morning hours. And then as the morning progresses on, many of the model solutions are trying to do some of, if there is going to be accumulation or going to be snow, they're suggesting that the heaviest time frame is in the morning hours into the early afternoon. Given that temperatures would naturally be warming a little bit during the day anyway, we're still in that time frame where that could potentially occur. And so that's kind of what I was showing here. Some of the heavier bands on the northern end of that precip shield late in the morning hours going into the early afternoon. In this particular scenario, it's over the metro. We have 3 other models, and they all have different locations for that heavy band. Some of them are a little south, maybe one's a little tad north. So anyway, that's what we wanted to show with this.
Okay, thanks, Keith. So moving ahead, and we wanted to give everybody a perspective on temperatures, because that's a big deal, and also probability of seeing precipitation at this time. What we have, the image on the left is overnight temperatures tonight. We expect most of the areas like around Atlanta Metro and into the south and east are going to be above freezing overnight. The only areas we might see temperatures approach freezing will be to the northwest, Rome up to Dalton, Blairsville area. But that's also where, as the precip starts to move in from the southwest, that's also those areas to the north and northwest is where we expect the lesser, lighter amounts of precipitation to occur. So if there's any good news there, that's what we're looking at. So through the night tonight, most areas should be above freezing. Therefore, hopefully any frozen precipitation that mixes in with the rain overnight tonight hopefully won't pose any major problems on roadways through the morning rush. Now, tomorrow, looking at temperatures, we're not going to warm up much, especially as the precipitation moves in. Most areas will be in the 30s, mid to upper 30s. We do think that there's going to be an area kind of along the I-85 corridor, wherever the heavier bands of precipitation set up. This is where temperatures may fluctuate, may drop several degrees. So if we're sitting at about 38, 39, 40 degrees, and it's relatively dry, and then a band of precip starts to move over your area, you might quickly drop to like 33, 34, 35, and that rain could transition over to snow pretty quickly. We call that evaporative cooling, and that's all based on the temperature plus the dew point. So the dew point is that lower temperature, and then the temperature drops closer to the dew point, air mass saturates. That's when we see the humidity closer to 100%. So that's some things we're going to have to watch, through the night and into the day tomorrow. But these are what we're expecting for max temps, and then probability of precipitation on the right. Now, heading into Friday night, Saturday, as the precip, we're expecting the precip to sort of end from northwest to southeast. But in doing so, we also expect the colder temperatures to move in. And this is where we expect during the evening hours, north and west of Metro Atlanta, temperatures to start to flirt with 32 degrees or even colder, and then after midnight to the south and east of Atlanta, that's when we expect temps to drop below freezing. This is where we could deal with more issues with respect to travel and roadways, especially over roads that are not treated, elevated surfaces we've been talking about like bridges and overpasses, and side roads. So we are expecting most of our area to drop below freezing by Saturday morning, but the trends of precipitation, the chances of precipitation are going to end from northwest to southeast through the evening hours and then overnight. Real quickly, wanted to show you what we expect for Saturday's temperatures. We expect these are the high temperatures, and this is going to happen probably in early to mid-afternoon hours, but early in the morning, We do expect especially if some clearing develops during the morning hours, temperatures should rise above freezing sometime in that 9 to 10 a.m. time frame. So mid to late morning, we expect most areas to be at or above freezing. So any residual icing that exists or develops Friday night into early Saturday morning, hopefully will be improving by that mid to late morning time frame. But we'll certainly be fine tuning this as we get closer to the event tomorrow. So that's the temperatures on Saturday. The last thing we wanted to show you before we get into finalizing and summarizing everything is the snowfall. With this event, because of the temperatures and the timing of everything, trying to pinpoint exactly how much you're going to get is very difficult, because you could see tomorrow during the day in the heavier bands that may develop, you might see a quick half-inch of snow, and then it melts as the heavier precipitation moves off. And then as another band comes in, you might see another half-inch to an inch. So it's really hard to pinpoint the total snowfall at this time. But what we want to do is try to draw your attention to where we think where the best chances for seeing accumulating snow. And you can see from like Rome up to Blairsville, basically south of that line, through at Metro Atlanta, Athens, down to just north of like Columbus, so LaGrange, north of Macon, Forsyth, Covington, those areas to the east along I-20. We do expect we could see at some point tomorrow into tomorrow evening some accumulating snowfall. And again, based on temperatures at this point, we're thinking most of the accumulation, if anything falls, is going to be on grassy dirt surfaces, elevated surfaces, like bridges and overpasses might be a concern, especially as we head into Friday evening. But anyway, we'll certainly be trying to fine tune this as much as possible. We just wanted to give everybody, our best guess. But again, as far as amounts go, it's really hard to tell exactly the high end amounts versus the low end amounts because of the timing and the temperatures that, are going to be fluctuating based on the banding that sets up through the day tomorrow into tomorrow night. Now, if any precipitation does linger into tomorrow night, where we are seeing the colder air come in, where air temperatures drop below freezing, then certainly that's going to be where the accumulations could be a little bit heavier. And we'll try to kind of pinpoint that a little bit better tonight into tomorrow. But for planning purposes, we just wanted to throw this out there at this point. Do you have anything you want to add, Keith?
No, and the only thing we'll add to that is that I know a lot of you see some of the computer model stuff that people throw out on the web and all that. And what we were all discussing in here is that a lot of the computer models are not necessarily accounting for a lot of melting that's occurring in the low levels, or they're assuming that the rate is going to overcome the melting. And so they're accumulating that snow, and then they don't account for any melting at the surface. So it's difficult. But we did look at the road temperatures. The subsurface temperatures on a lot of the roads sensors are in the lower 50s. So that's something that will be working in our favor in that regard. And so that's, again, why it's difficult to come up with any accumulation, because of ground temps as well.
Okay, last slide we wanted to show is, again, impacts, which we've kind of touched on pretty much through this entire briefing. But right now at this point, the best and most likely case, what we're expecting for tomorrow into tomorrow night, is that areas that see that on that northern fringe of precipitation, I could see that mix or change over to all snow at times. We do expect temperatures to be above freezing, mid to upper 30s, so that any snow accumulation tomorrow at least may be just on the grassy surfaces, metal surfaces, things like that. Worst case is temperatures get a little bit colder than what we're seeing right now, especially if any heavier bands of precipitation develop in snow. And so we could see some slush that even develops on the roads, especially bridges, overpasses, or any roads that aren't treated ahead of time. So that as we head into Friday night and temperatures drop below freezing, any of that residual slush or snow could refreeze and cause some problems on roadways. So we kind of need to account for that and plan for that. But we're hoping that for the most part, temperatures will stay above freezing where we do see snow tomorrow, and that precip will end before the coldest air arrives Friday night into early Saturday morning. So I think we've done enough. I know we have some questions. I'm going to stop the recording real fast.